be advised, the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Mindanao is 1/3 of the Philippines. It's the southern island facing Indonesia and Malaysia. And the people in Mindanao who are Muslims, Christians, and Lumads, what we call the indigenous tribal communities. The Muslims, they have been fighting for their own homeland for almost 400 years up to now. Now we are trying to bring peace to Mindanao. And one of the most successful initiatives is this Global Peace Festival, bringing together Christians and Muslims. And this is what we're trying to bring to Mindanao now, between the Christian bishops and the ulamas who are Muslims, and the impact of the direct dialogue, direct contact, conversation, lots of display of humility, not of arrogance, no belligerence, but just speaking to each other as brothers and sisters instead of insulting one another and saying terrible things about each other. When we finally realize, examining our conscience, that we are really brothers and sisters, we're all God's children, belonging to one family under God, then all of this animosity, all of these fears, all these tensions and conflicts will begin to disappear.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Philippines Uncut. I'm your host, Buddy Cunanan. Now, on this show, we talk about everything under the sun, and we meet so many interesting personalities. And tonight is no different. In fact, tonight is a very special night because we are going to talk to a very famous personality, very famous man, an icon of Philippine politics. He is a journalist, statesman, he is an entrepreneur, he is the author of many landmark bills that have impacted millions of Filipinos' lives. And aside from this, he's been around the political scene for many, many years, and is traveling the world as an international statesman and peacemaker. I'm talking about none other than five-time Speaker of the House of Representatives, and a man I would like to call Speaker Emeritus, former House Speaker, Jose De Venecia.
Thank you, Buddy. I like that last title, you know, Speaker Emeritus.
Yes, sir.
Well, I appear in your program for the first time. I heard many friends talk about your program, speaking about the Philippines and Asia and the world. Now I have a chance to appear before you and talk to you and exchange views.
Yes, sir, and it's such an honor to have you on board this show, sir. And I have to say that it took a while to track you down because, you know, in fact, the title of the show is JDV at 75, and apparently JDV is not slowing down. And I mentioned that you're globetrotting because in your quest to foment international peace and understanding and alliances with different peoples all around the world. And finally, we have you here in GNN. And so let me welcome you formally, give you a warm welcome to the home of GNN here in Makati City. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Buddy. I did not know that the capital and the home front of GNN is in Manila. It is beginning to have an impact in the global community, in the international community. I thought it is somewhere in Japan or New Delhi. But right here, we can claim it as our own.
Yes, sir.
The Philippines' own. So I congratulate you for your program and for your station.
Thank you, sir. And we're being viewed now all over the Philippines on our partner cable operators and free-to-air in many provinces, as well as all over Asia. To name some, Taiwan, we're in China, we're in Korea, even Mongolia, sir. So we have Mongolian viewers this evening. Anyway, sir, in my introduction to you, I said that you're an icon of Philippine politics, and I would like people to really get to know who is Jose De Venecia, because people have seen you around, they've heard you speak. Tell us a bit about yourself, sir.
Well, I was born in Dagupan City in Pangasinan by the edge of the West Philippine Sea. And my grandfather was mayor of the city, and my father was a judge, and my mother was a colegiala housewife. And I went to school at La Salle and then at the Ateneo. And I became a young journalist at 18. I was a young foreign correspondent at the age of 18 and wrote a weekly column on Asian affairs in the Old Philippine Herald, which was published in several Asian newspapers. That's where I learned international relations, foreign policy, economic relations, diplomacy, and so on. And then I was appointed Minister Economic Counselor in Saigon during the Vietnam War. Your father was there, was one of the founders of PhilCAG with President Ramos, who was then a major, together with the other great officers of the Philippine Armed Forces. From there, I ran for congressman as an independent and won. But we were abolished by martial law after 2 years. So I resumed my old career as a businessman. I went to the Middle East and North Africa. I was the pioneer there. And because of our pioneering work, I employed 51,000 Filipinos working in my company. And because of our pioneering work, it led to the employment of millions and millions and millions of Filipinos who followed suit. And then we were in the Red Sea, we were in the Persian Gulf, we were in the Mediterranean, we were in Europe. And that was the beginning of our massive dollar remittance program, which I conceived and implemented, and which became very successful and now earns the Philippines some $20 billion a year.
Yes, sir.
Which has saved the Philippine economy all these years.
Protected it from the global crises.
Yes, and which has became the model for Turkey, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and the other nations now benefiting from the dollar remittance program.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now it's under challenge. The dollar deposit law, whether
yes,
you can open a dollar account.
That's
one
of the key issues now.
That's another
issue.
That's
yes,
another subject.
But it's a really groundbreaking work, especially your work in the Middle East. As you said, that you pioneered the
port operations in the Middle East,
oil exploration.
hospital operations in the Middle East, and oil exploration in the Middle East.
Yes, sir. Very impressive, sir. And then from there, after your stint in the private sector, being an oilman, you...
Well, I went into politics again when Cory, when the dictatorship was ousted and Cory restored Philippine democracy. I returned and I went back into politics. And I was re-elected congressman for 6 years, coterminous with the term of Cory Aquino. And then I became campaign manager of President Ramos's battle for the presidency, and we won. And then I ran for speaker by forming the Rainbow Coalition, which united the country after the bitter years following the fall of the dictatorship. And I became speaker twice, re-elected twice, from 1992 to 1998. I ran for president and I lost a very popular Joseph Estrada. We were 10, I came out number 2. Pero malaking lamang sa akin ni President Estrada. And then I returned again after Gloria assumed the presidency. She was my vice presidential running mate. Yes. And I ran for Congress and I won. And then I ran for speaker and I won again. And I was elected 3 more times. So 5 times I was elected Speaker of the House, which was unprecedented in Philippine post-war history.
Is there any Speaker of the House who has come close? Maybe 3 terms?
I think Speaker Villarreal was 3 terms. Speaker Laurel, I think, was 2 terms. And no one else.
But none close to the 5-term record, sir.
In the in post-war history. But I think Osmeña was also a 5-term speaker.
Okay.
Before the war, because
Before
they
the war.
started since 1907. 1907 until the Commonwealth.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Now, sir, you've had a very interesting career. You were a correspondent, you were a diplomat, then an entrepreneur, a very successful entrepreneur, and also politics. What drives you, sir? I mean, to go into all these fields and excel. What is it that drives Mr. De Venecia?
Well, if you have a vision for yourself and for your country and for the region, then you aspire to implement this, what you're planning to do, your own roadmap, your own vision for yourself and for the country. So if you don't have a vision, then you have nothing to aspire for. You have nothing to aspire to. And therefore there's no need for you to mobilize your skills, your energies, your talents, whatever God has given you to accomplish them. So it's very important that you must have a vision. And having created this vision, which you think you can achieve, then you go for it.
Yes, sir.
That's what drives me up to now.
Yes, sir.
For example, I have always felt that there is need to create and unify one Asia, a unified Asia. Something like the European Union
Yes,
or
sir.
the Atlantic Community. So when I said that to myself, that I would do something about it, I created the International Conference of Asian Political Parties. So I brought together the political parties, ruling parties and opposition parties, which they said was not possible because they will just be killing each
each other's
other.
necks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said, no, we can do it because we want to achieve a culture of cooperation among the political parties. So from 40 parties, we have built it up now to about 330 political parties, ruling parties and opposition parties from Northeast Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia, Central Asia, West Asia, including the entire Arab world, and Australia, New Zealand, and the small islands in the Pacific.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So now we have done that. And I also put together and founded the Asian Parliamentary Assembly, put together all the parliaments of Asia to create the beginnings of an Asian parliament.
How realistic, sir? How soon do you think an actual Asian parliament, similar to what they have in the EU, how soon or how far off do you think it is?
I would say 10 to 15 years. Because, you know, the problem with Asia is we have, unlike Christian Europe, the overarching Christian civilization that unites the Europeans. In Asia, we have Buddhist Asia, we have Muslim Asia, we have Hindu Asia, we have Jewish Asia, and we have Christian Asia. Aside from the many other smaller religions, but which are quite large. So, how to bridge this
Yes.
divide,
The
this gulf
differences, yes, sir.
of civilizations, of cultures? That is what we are trying to. That's why I formed this International Conference of Asian Political Parties, which is now very successful, and formed the Asian Parliamentary Assembly, which is now successful. And thirdly, I've just created recently the Centrist Asia Pacific Democrats International, of which I want you to join our executive group.
Proudly, sir,
Buddy,
enthusiastically.
because you are an internationalist. And fourthly, I just created the Asian Peace and Conciliation Council in order to create an organization and a mechanism that will bridge the transition from the old order to the new order. from the dictatorship to the
Very
new
timely.
democracies.
Very timely,
Which
sir.
is the problem now
Yes.
in the countries of the Arab Spring. How to bridge this. I think I have it here in the post-revolt transition for an Asian Peace and Reconciliation Council to solve the difficult problem of transition to democracy
Yes, of course.
and the return to popular governance in the wake of the Arab Spring.
So this, and that really is a challenge, as we see now with the birth pains, sir, of many new democracies in the Arab world, for instance.
And 1 month after, Asian Peace and Reconciliation Council, okay. So you see, we launch an idea and we don't stop until it's approved. And we need the Asian Peace and Reconciliation Councils, something that your father and you observed in Cambodia. Imagine they killed 2 million in Cambodia,
Yes,
but Hun Sen and King Sihanouk, they were able to unite the 4 armies into the United Cambodian Armed Forces. They were able to create a government of national unity from 4 political parties. Now, Cambodia is a thriving democracy, although it still many imperfections. And on top of that, because peace and reconciliation must be based on truth and justice, they have created a joint tribunal of the United Nations and the Cambodian government to punish the Khmer Rouge killers. Same what Ramos Horta
in East Timor.
And Sanana Gusmao did in East Timor, which your father and your mother observed when they were there helping out,
The refugee,
helping the
problem.
refugees
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
during that period. Now, after the massacre of many East Timorese, there's tremendous partnership and reconciliation and alliance between Yudhoyono's Indonesia and Ramos Horta and Sanana Gusmao's East Timor, bolstered by the success of Yudhoyono in solving the Aceh peace problem,
Yes, sir.
the historic Aceh problem
Which has
between
always been a
Christians and
problem,
Muslims.
yes, until today.
Fighting
Yes.
for 30
Yes.
years.
Yes.
So now, this is why I created this Asian Peace and Reconciliation Council with Deputy Prime Minister Surakyart, with Hun Sen, with Ramos Horta, who's a Nobel Peace Prize awardee, and the President of Poland, and the President of the Chancellor of Austria, and the President of Chile, together with Premier Aziz of Pakistan and former presidential candidate Mushahid of Pakistan. We put this Asian Peace and Reconciliation Council together, and we will have a meeting in East Timor on April 25 to 26 to Longstead. And we are inviting you to cover it.
Gladly.
Inviting GNN
Gladly.
to cover it.
It'll
Remember, April 25 to 26.
It'll be a very historic occasion.
Yes.
And I'm glad it's being well received by different parties all over, not just the region, but all over the world. Are you targeting to expand in other areas?
Well, I am accepting your invitation that we will go to Georgia.
Yes,
You as Consul of Georgia could play a role in the Asian Peace and see, we have to create a win-win situation between Russia and Georgia.
Yes, sir.
In the same way that we are helping in our own small way integrate the Maoist armed forces into the armed forces of Nepal to create a government of national unity, to see how we can find a solution for the Spratlys.
Yes, yes.
To see,
Very timely, yes.
see how we can find a solution to how we are endorse the glimmering talks, peace talks between the UN forces or the coalition forces and the Taliban in the light of the announcement of American withdrawal and the American pullout from Iraq.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There's a need to create a government of national unity there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There's a need for peace in the Caucasus
Of course.
between Armenia and Azerbaijan.
Yes, yes.
There's a need for peace in Eurasia.
Yes, sir.
on the Russian frontier in Georgia. There's need for peace in our own Mindanao.
In our own country, yes,
And
sir.
in southern Thailand, there's need peace in southern Thailand between the Buddhists and the Muslims. So these are things where I believe, Buddy, you and I and our friends in the region, around the world, can make a contribution.
Yes, sir. Sir, hold that thought because we have to pause for a break. Guys, don't go away because in a few moments we'll be back with JDV at 75, Peacemaker and Statesman. We'll be back.
Mindanao is 1/3 of the Philippines. It's the southern island facing Indonesia and Malaysia. And the people in Mindanao who are Muslims, Christians, and Lumads, what we call the indigenous tribal communities. The Muslims, they have been fighting for their own homeland for almost 400 years up to now. Now we are trying to bring peace to Mindanao. And one of the most successful initiatives is this Global Peace Festival, bringing together Christians and Muslims. And this is what we're trying to bring to Mindanao now, between the Christian bishops and the ulamas who are Muslims, and the impact of the direct dialogue, direct contact, conversation, lots of display of humility, not of arrogance, no belligerence, but just speaking to each other as brothers and sisters instead of insulting one another and saying terrible things about each other. When we finally realize, examining our conscience, that we are really brothers and sisters, we're all God's children, belonging to one family under God, then all of this animosity, all of these fears, all these tensions and conflicts will begin to disappear.
Welcome back to Philippines Uncut. I'm Buddy Cunanan. Tonight's topic is JDV at 75, Statesman and Peacemaker, Peacemaker and Statesman. Welcome back, sir, to our second segment.
Thank you, Buddy.
Yes, sir. I would like to take off, sir, from a word or two words that have been so associated with you over the course of so many years, and it is win-win, because it's a mantra that you've lived a great deal of your life by, and your political career has definitely been marked by the words win-win. In fact, and until now, when you say that you're looking for peaceful solutions, everything is really based on win-win. And if you look back at your colorful career, sir, in politics, the Rainbow Coalition that you formed in '92, a lot of people said that, how was Mr. De Venecia able to do that? Bring all these different parties together to form a singular, like a coalition, the Rainbow Coalition, that was one of the most productive coalitions in Philippine legislative history.
You're right, Buddy.
Yes, sir.
Well, in life, it's not necessary that you have a winner and you have a loser. You can have two winners. One winner is slightly gaining more benefits than the other, but still both are essentially winners. So there need not be a winner and a loser who will mope and will feel that he is outside the Colombo. See, the thing is, if we can achieve these working coalitions that are so essential, whether you have a parliamentary or presidential government. So when President Ramos won the presidency, he had only 24% of the vote. So what happens to the